The sun was low in the alien sky, red, wide, and burning. Its light covered the prison yard in a golden glow, but there was no warmth in that place. Prisoners stood in a line, silent, dirty, hopeless. Each one had chains on their wrists. Each one knew what was coming. The alien guards stood tall, weapons in hand. Their black armor glinted in the light. No smiles. No pity. At the end of the line, a human man waited. His name was Elias Rook, a former captain in the Earth Peace Corps. His clothes were torn, his face bruised, but his eyes were sharp. He didn't look down. He didn't beg. He watched the guards. He watched the sky. He waited. A horn blew. Loud. Fanal, the High Commander, walked out, a tall alien with gray skin and golden robes. His name was General Karvek, ruler of the prison world Odran IV. He stood before the line of prisoners and raised one hand. "This is the end," he said in a deep voice. "You have all been found guilty of crimes against the Empire. There will be no trial, no appeal, only death." His words were cold, so was the silence that followed. A group of alien children stood behind him, quiet and still. One of them was a little girl, small, pale green skin, dark eyes, and long silver hair. She looked different. Younger. Sad, she watched the human. The first prisoner was dragged forward, a tall alien with broken horns. He did not cry. The second followed. Then the third. One by one, they were taken to the execution square. The guards raised their guns, and one by one the prisoners fell. Elias was now third in line. He kept his eyes forward. He had known death before, on battlefields, on broken ships, in the silence of space. But this was different. This was cold, slow, empty. He clenched his fists. Then, a soft voice. "Wait!" Everyone turned. The little alien girl stepped forward from the line of children. The guards looked confused. So did the commander. She pointed, straight, at the human, straight at Elias. Gasps echoed through the yard. Even Elias blinked. The commander frowned. "What are you doing, child?" She didn't answer. She walked past the guards, past the weapons, until she stood right in front of Elias. He looked down at her and she looked up at him. "I know you," she said. Elias shook his head. "You must be mistaken." "No," she said. "It was you." The commander stepped forward. "Speak clearly now." The girl turned to him. "Years ago," she said, "on the city planet of Kareen, there was fighting, fire. My house was broken. I was lost." She pointed again at Elias. "This human found me. He gave me food, covered me with his coat, then disappeared." Elias blinked slowly. He remembered something. A tiny face in the rubble, a child he pulled from under stone. "I didn't know you survived," he whispered. The commander looked angry. "That does not change his crime." The girl crossed her arms. "You said I get one wish for my naming day. Anything I ask." The commander's mouth twitched. "Yes," she said clearly. "Then I want this human to live." Silence. Hard. Heavy. The guards didn't move. No one breathed. The commander looked from the girl to Elias, and back. Finally, he nodded once. "Unchain him." Two guards stepped forward, their hands shook. They removed the chains from Elias's wrists. The human stared at the girl. She smiled. "You were kind," she said. "Now I am kind back." The other prisoners watched in disbelief as Elias was led away, not to the execution line, but to the command tower. The girl followed. Inside the tower, Elias sat on a bench in a bright room. For the first time in months, he wasn't cold. The little girl brought him water. He took it with a nod. "Why me?" he asked. She shrugged. "Because you didn't look at me like a thing. You looked like I mattered." Elias leaned back. "You saved my life." She tilted her head. "No, you saved mine first." Outside, the sun was setting. But for Elias, the day wasn't over. Something had changed. He didn't know why the girl remembered him, or what her power truly was. But she had pointed at him, and now, everything was different. The room was warm and quiet. For the first time in weeks, Elias Rook wasn't chained. He wasn't beaten. He wasn't treated like dirt. He sat on a bench, sipping warm water, staring through the glass wall at the sunset outside. The sky above Odrin 4 had turned soft orange. Peaceful. It didn't match the pain this place usually gave. Across from him sat the little alien girl who had pointed at him, the girl who had stopped his execution. "I don't even know your name," Elias said quietly. She blinked. "My name is Luma." Elias gave a slow nod. "Luma, you saved my life." She shook her head. "You saved mine first, on Kareen. You don't remember?" "I remember pulling a kid out of rubble, but I didn't know she lived." Luma smiled. "I did. You gave me your jacket, told me not to cry, then ran into the smoke." They sat in silence for a moment, then Elias leaned forward. "Why do they listen to you? Why does the commander, your father, give you so much power?" Luma lowered her voice. "Because I am his only child. And because I don't speak often." She looked down. "So when I do, they listen." Elias narrowed his eyes. "Even if you tell them to spare a prisoner?" Luma nodded. "Especially then." That night, whispers spread across the prison towers. The human was spared. She pointed at him. She broke the rules. In the dining hall, guards sat close together, voices low. She made her father look weak. If she does it again, the council will act. Inside the council chamber, General Karvik stood before his advisors, tall aliens with hard eyes. "She embarrassed you," said one, "before prisoners, before soldiers." "She forced your hand," said another. Karvik clenched his fists. "I will speak to her. If she does this again," a voice hissed, "we may have to limit her voice." The next morning, Elias woke to the sound of soft humming. Luma was already in his room, sitting by the window, drawing something on a data tablet. He smiled. "Do you ever sleep?" She nodded. "Sometimes. But I wanted to be here when you woke." "Why?" She looked at him. "So you'd know you're not alone." Elias sat up. "You're a strange little girl." Luma laughed. "So are you." He raised an eyebrow. "I'm a grown man." She giggled. "Then why do you look scared all the time?" They spent the day talking. Elias told her about Earth, green fields, blue skies, loud cities. She told him about the court, boring dinners, long speeches, and how everyone walked on eggshells when she was around. "I don't want to be special," she whispered. "I just want people to be kind." Elias nodded. "Kindness is rare these days." That afternoon, guards came to take Elias to a private room for questioning, but Luma stood in the doorway. "No," she said. "He's not a prisoner anymore." The guards looked at each other, then at her. They backed away. Later, the general came to see his daughter. His face was tight. Angry. "You should not have interfered." Luma stood straight. "You promised me one gift, I used it. You embarrassed me before the people." She looked him in the eyes. "You raised me to speak the truth." "I did." Karvik's mouth opened, but he said nothing. That night, while everyone slept, a secret message was sent from inside the prison tower. "The girl has broken order. The human must be removed. Quietly. Permanently." Elias didn't know. He sat near the window watching the stars. Luma leaned against his side, half asleep. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" she murmured. "For remembering something I didn't know mattered." She smiled, eyes closed. "That moment mattered more than you ever guessed." Outside the tower, a silent shadow crept along the wall. A guard not wearing his own badge, carrying a hidden blade. Headed toward Elias's room. But the door didn't open that night, because another hand had already locked it. A servant girl, young, quiet, loyal to Luma. She whispered into the guard's ear from behind. If you go inside, she'll never forgive you, and he won't be the only one gone. The guard froze and walked away. Inside, Luma stirred. Eyes still closed, she whispered. They'll try soon. Elias opened his eyes. Try what? She turned her face toward him. To take you from me. Inside Tower Room 14, the walls were quiet, but something heavy hung in the air. Tension. It was the kind that didn't shout, but sat in the chest like a stone. Elias Rook stood near the long window, his hands behind his back. He had spent weeks in chains, and now he was free. But not truly. The guards didn't touch him anymore. But they watched him, like a dog off its leash, like something dangerous they weren't allowed to shoot. Behind him, Luma sat cross-legged on a soft pillow, drawing on her tablet. Her dark eyes flicked up from time to time, watching Elias. You keep looking out that window, she said softly. I'm not used to windows, he replied, or soft rooms or kindness. You'll get used to me, she said with a smile. He turned. I'm starting to. In the courtyard below, the other prisoners were lined up again, this time for labor. Digging, building, repairing machines they didn't own. The guards barked orders. Elias watched them, watched how they looked up at his window. He saw anger in their eyes. Suspicion. In the workyard, two prisoners spoke in hushed tones. That's him, one muttered. The one the girl chose. Why, him? They were going to free all of us, but she picked only the human. They didn't understand. No one had explained. And in places like this, when you didn't understand, you hated. Later, when Elias walked through the corridor to the learning hall, escorted by two silent guards, some prisoners stepped aside, others didn't. One spat near his feet. Elias didn't respond, but he felt it. That afternoon, Luma introduced him to a small circle of alien children. He tells stories, she said proudly. The children looked at him with wide eyes. Stories from Earth? One asked. Elias smiled gently. Yes. Do you want to hear about the man who built wings and touched the sun? They nodded. They listened. And for the first time, Elias saw something new. Not fear, not pity. Curiosity. When the story ended, one child touched Elias's hand. Your skin is soft, the child said. Elias chuckled. I'm not used to war anymore. Another child whispered. You're not like the guards. No, Luma said. He's not. But far above in the glass control tower, the prison council watched the interaction through cameras. One advisor scoffed. Now he teaches children? He's becoming a symbol, said another. A human with soft hands, offering peace. It's dangerous. General Karvek stood silently. One of the elders turned to him. You must act, before the child's voice becomes law. That evening, Elias walked back to his room. No guards followed this time. Luma was already there, sitting beside, a pot of warm tea. They don't like you, she said without looking up. I know. They don't like me either. He sat down beside her. That's because we don't follow their rules. Luma looked at him. I'm not trying to change the world. You already have, he said. Just then, a knock. A prisoner stood outside. Res, a tall reptilian male with tired eyes. I want to speak, he said. Elias stepped outside, letting the door close behind him. Res looked him in the eye. You're not the only one who's saved people. I never said I was. But you're the only one she picked. Elias didn't reply. Res leaned closer. If she speaks for you again, others will suffer. That night, Luma found Elias sitting in the dark. You're not sleeping. He shook his head. They think I stole their freedom. Did you? I didn't ask for this. But you didn't walk away, she said. No, he whispered. I didn't. Outside, the wind blew cold through the steel gates. Change had entered the prison, not with fire, but with soft hands, and a child's quiet voice, and the system didn't know how to stop it. The tower halls of Audrin 4 were colder than usual, not because of weather, not because of power loss, but because of silence. A thick, dangerous silence that followed General Karvek wherever he walked. Even his guards didn't speak to him, not since his daughter had stopped an execution and saved the human, not since she pointed. Karvek stood alone in the council chamber. 12 tall chairs circled him. 11 were full. The advisors stared. Down at him, alien elders in robes of black and gray, eyes sharp, voices quiet. One of them, the oldest, finally spoke. "You've let the child lead you." Another added, "You promised strength. Instead, you give softness." A third leaned forward. "You must remove the human, or lose this command." Karvek didn't move. "I gave my daughter a promise," he said. "She used it. That promise holds weight." A younger advisor scoffed. "Then let her rule the prison. Let the child run executions. Let the human tell bedtime stories while the empire falls." The room grew louder. "Remove him now." Quietly. No more mercy. No more weakness. Karvek clenched his jaw. Inside he was boiling, but he didn't shout. He said only one thing before leaving. "I will handle it." That evening he stood at the doorway of his daughter's chamber. Luma was curled under a blanket reading a datapad. She looked up. "Hello, Father." He entered slowly. Sat down. Said nothing. She closed the pad and stared at him. "You're here to ask me to give him up, aren't you?" He didn't lie. "Yes." Luma didn't cry. She didn't argue. She just asked, "Why do they fear him so much?" Karvek looked away. "He is a symbol." Of what? Of a different way. A softer way. One that the council cannot control. Luma tilted her head. "But isn't that what peace is?" He didn't answer, because he didn't know anymore. Later that night, Elias stood in the garden, outside the towers. It wasn't a real garden, just rocks and cold lights. But it was quiet. He liked quiet. Footsteps crunched behind him. He turned. Karvek stood there, alone. No guards, no weapons. "Do you remember her?" the general asked. Elias blinked. "Luma?" Karvek nodded. "Do you remember saving her?" Elias looked away. "Barely. There was a fire. She was trapped. I pulled her out. You disappeared after that. I had orders." "She remembered your face," Karvek said. Elias didn't speak. Karvek stepped closer. "She told me she dreamed of you every night for a year. She thought you were a spirit." Elias chuckled softly. "Tell her I'm not that special." The general's voice dropped. "The council wants you dead. They think you've changed her." "I didn't change her," Elias said. "I just treated her like a person." Karvek stood silent, then said, "You will leave this prison tomorrow." Elias raised an eyebrow. "That's not what they want." "No," Karvek agreed. "But they don't decide everything." Elias narrowed his eyes. "And if I refuse, then I cannot protect you. Or her." Back inside the main tower, Luma stood in the shadows, listening. She had followed her father without sound. She had heard every word, and her small hands shook. Later she entered Elias's room. "You're leaving," he nodded. "Your father thinks it's the only way to keep you safe. I don't want you to go." Elias knelt beside her. "I know. But if you stay," she whispered, "they'll try to kill you." He nodded again. She held out a small silver pin. It was shaped like a flower, delicate but sharp at the edges. "This was my mother's. Take it." Elias held it carefully. "Thank you." The next morning, Elias stood near the transport gate. A shuttle was ready. No chains, no guards, just a quiet goodbye. Luma stood nearby. She didn't cry, but her eyes were red. "I'll find you again," she said. He smiled. I'll make sure you can. As he stepped onto the shuttle, the wind picked up, and far above, in the highest part of the tower, 2 council members watched through a narrow window. He's leaving, one whispered. For now, said the other. But deep in the halls of that cold prison, a child had started something, and even with the human gone, it would not stop. The prison yard of Audran 4 was colder than usual. The wind carried no sound. The guards didn't shout. The prisoners didn't move. Something had shifted in the air, not because someone had died, but because someone hadn't. The human, Elias Rook, was gone. Taken away in silence. No cuffs, no chains. Just a quiet shuttle ride under the general's orders, but everyone knew he didn't run. He was pushed. In the high tower, the council watched the yard below with cold, sharp eyes. She says nothing now, one advisor whispered. Good. Another replied. Let the silence return. But they were wrong. Luma was not silent. She was watching, she was listening, and she was waiting. That morning, the prisoners were summoned again. Not for labor, not for meals, for judgment. The council had called for a message, an example. One of the older prisoners, Ress, the tall reptilian, had spoken out after Elias left, said the system was broken, said the council had become cowards, in robes. Now he stood on a stone platform, wrists bound, head high. General Karvek stood across from him, holding a ceremonial staff. The sentence had been decided. Death. Public. No delay, but just as the guards raised their weapons, a voice echoed across the yard. Small, clear, unshaken. Stop. Heads turned. Guards froze, and then they saw her, Luma, standing in the middle of the path, arms crossed, eyes burning like fire. You will not kill him, she said. The guards looked at the general. The general said nothing. Step aside. One guard muttered. No, Luma said. He only spoke the truth. She turned to the crowd. He said the same thing I've said. That fear has made you weak. That silence makes you cruel. The crowd stirred, whispers began. She's speaking again. She defied them once. Will she do it again? A council elder stepped forward. You shame your father. Luma looked at him. Then let shame fall on those who fear voices smaller than theirs. The elder raised a hand. You are a child. I'm the child you listen to when it's convenient, she snapped. But when I speak against you, I'm just small. Karvek stepped forward now, slowly, heavy boots on the stone. His voice was low. Luma, step aside. She looked at him. No, please, he said. She shook her head. You taught me to stand up for others. Why are you afraid when I do it in front of them? Karvek stared at her, all eyes turned to him. The staff in his hand felt heavier than ever before. Behind him, the guards waited, Ress waited, the council waited, but he paused. And then he let the staff fall from his hand. Clang. It hit the stone like thunder. Release him, Karvek said. The guards hesitated. I said, he growled. Release him. Ress's cuffs were removed. He stepped down slowly, eyes locked on Luma. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The council stormed out of the square, robes snapping like wings in the wind. Later in the garden, Luma sat on a bench alone. The wind played with her silver hair. Her father approached quietly. You humiliated me, he said. She nodded. I know. He sat beside her. You also reminded me who I was. She looked at him. So what happens now? Karvek didn't answer right away, then said, Now, we prepare. That evening, in the lower cells, whispers spread faster. Then light. She stopped it again. Not with weapons. Just words. She's not just a child. She's a storm. In a quiet room far below, a guard wrote a message on a thin tablet. The girl grows stronger. The people listen now, We must act before she becomes more than voice, before she becomes hope. He pressed send, and far beyond the prison moon, someone received it. The wind howled outside the high tower of Odran 4, but inside General Karvek's private chamber, the storm was silent. He stood by the large window, arms crossed behind his back, eyes locked on the prison yard below. Prisoners worked in rows. Guards watched without speaking. Everyone moved like machines, but nothing felt in control anymore. And at the center of it all, Luma, his daughter, his storm. She had stopped 2 executions. Twice she had defied the council, and now the prisoners watched her more than they feared. The weapons. Hope had a name, and it was hers. Behind him, a soft tone chimed. A message. He turned toward the screen. It wasn't from the council. It was from outside. A deep voice spoke. She is not just a child anymore, she's a spark, and we don't allow sparks inside powder rooms, General. Karvek's face tightened. You will end this, or we will. The message cut off. He sat slowly in his chair, hands shaking for the first time in years. His past had returned, and this time it brought threats. That night, Luma was reading in the tower garden. A small lantern glowed beside her. She was alone, or so she thought. Her father appeared from the shadows, his face unreadable. She looked up. Are you angry? He shook his head. She waited. He sat beside her. You've changed things. Luma didn't smile. I just did what you taught me. That's what scares me, he said. He took a slow breath. There are people outside this place who want to control everything, not just prisoners, not just me, but voices, symbols. And you've become one. Luma looked away. So what now? I have a choice, Karvek said. To protect the prison, or protect you. In the lower halls, the council met in secret. He's too slow, one hissed. She will bring collapse, said another. A final voice spoke. We send an outside agent, someone who doesn't hesitate. A name was whispered. Not loud, but final. Meanwhile, in the prisoner work zone, whispers filled the air. She stopped another death. She speaks and things happen. She's not afraid. Rest, the tall reptilian prisoner, watched the guards with narrowed eyes. They fear her, he said. A small alien beside him nodded. What happens if she disappears? Rest didn't answer. Back in the garden, Luma stood. I don't want to run, she told her father. I know. I don't want to be silent either. Karvek looked up at her. Then I must make a choice very soon. He stood. Then did something no one had seen in years. He bent down and kissed her forehead. I hope I choose right. That night, the door to Elias's old room opened, empty now, quiet, but not forgotten. Luma stepped inside. She sat where he once sat. She held the small silver flower pin he'd left behind and whispered to the empty room. Where are you? Outside the prison dome, in the blackness of space, a new ship approached, fast, silent, marked with no symbol. Inside it sat a single figure in dark armor. A message blinked on their screen. Remove the girl. Quiet. Final. They nodded once. No. Words. Just action. In the morning, Luma stood before a group of children in the mess hall. She told them a story about a human who had once stopped to help her, even when no one else did. They said kindness was weakness, she told them. But kindness saved me. The children clapped, and far above, in the shadows of the tower, a weapon waited. General Karvek stood on the balcony, watching the horizon. His comm device buzzed. Another message. We will strike at sunset. If you will not act, we will. He crushed the device in his hand, then turned sharply and walked toward the council chamber. He didn't knock. He didn't bow. He stormed in and threw a staff across the room. She is under my protection. The council stood. "This is madness," one shouted. "She's tearing down everything we built." Karvek's voice thundered. "Then let it fall." A silence deeper than death followed. No one moved, because they all knew. The commander had made his choice. The sun of Odrin IV dipped low, casting long red shadows across the prison towers. The guards stood still. The prisoners were silent. Everyone was waiting, but no one knew for what. Something was coming. Everyone could feel it. And at the heart of it all stood a child. Luma walked through the prison courtyard with calm steps. She wore no armor, no robe, just a plain gray tunic and a silver flower pin on her chest. It once belonged to Elias Rook, the human she had saved. Now it belonged to his memory. In the tower, the council prepared to act. He gave up his command. One of them hissed. "He's blinded by her." Another read from a message pad. "Outside agents are in position. They'll remove her before dusk." The final elder stood tall. Let it be done. No more symbols, no more hope. But General Karvek had other plans. He stood at the prison's communication hub, hands on the controls. The screen in front of him blinked with a galaxy-wide message code. He hesitated, then hit send. The message was short. "To any human ships within reach. She saved your kind once. Now we ask if you'll return the favor." Far above Odrin IV, near the edge of the system, a signal lit up inside a small human vessel drifting in black space. A hand reached forward and pressed accept. Down on the planet, Luma stood in the middle of the training yard, surrounded by guards. Not her father's men, the Council's private force. They raised their weapons. "Come with us quietly," one ordered. "No," Luma said softly. "I've done nothing wrong." "You've spoken too much," he growled. One guard stepped forward to grab her and was tackled to the ground by a prisoner. It was Ress. Other prisoners joined him. The guards shouted. Batons were drawn. Chaos exploded. Luma didn't run. She stood still, watching as both prisoners and guards fought, not against each other, but for her. At the edge of the tower, General Karvek arrived too late. He saw the smoke, the screams, and the council ship lifting off from the far pad with Luma inside. Inside the ship, Luma sat in a sealed room. A council agent stood guard, cold, wordless. Above them, the engines powered for orbit. Then, boom. A blast rocked the ship. The walls shook. Outside, a human dropship tore through the clouds like lightning. A figure stepped out. Armor scratched, jacket burned, but alive. It was Elias Rook. Inside the ship, alarms rang. The guard turned, and the door burst open. Elias stepped. Through, pulse blade in hand, Luma's eyes went wide. "You came back." He smiled. "You didn't think I'd leave a story unfinished, did you?" He cut her restraints, pulled her close. They ran through fire and gunshots. When they reached the deck, Karvek was waiting in a small fighter, his arm bleeding but face steady. Opened the hatch. Luma climbed in. Elias followed. The fighter soared away as the council ship exploded behind them, flames lighting up the sky. The prisoners below cheered, and in the heart of that joy, change was born. 2 weeks later, the prison gates stood open, not because of a riot, but because the Empire had signed a new order. No prisoner shall be silenced without voice. No child's word shall be treated less than law. Luma now walked freely through the yard, no guards behind her. Prisoners bowed not from fear but from respect. Elias stood at her side. Karvek walked behind them, no longer general, just a father, proud and silent. The galaxy had witnessed a strange thing. Little girl who pointed at a human and changed everything.